Tonight we are tracking the impact of deadly Hurricane Milton as the storm passed over the state of Florida. Milton has returned out into the Atlantic and no longer is considered a disturbance, but millions of people, in fact, this is video from all of the wreckage the storm left in its path. They're still feeling the impact of Milton tonight. Some evacuees trying to come back are dealing with slow-moving traffic on the interstate. There's also flooding on side roads, preventing people from even getting to their homes. And in some areas, the water is really all you see. Hillsborough County officials are using boats to survey what was once neighborhoods. Residents are still taking it all in.
You see it on the news of other people. You feel for them. You know, I've seen it when it was flooded over here, and Debbie, you know, I felt for him. It's unbelievable. I mean, I know it's material things, but I gotta start all over again, you know? Everything I had there is no good.
That is just heartbreaking. At least 10 people have died, and authorities say more casualties are expected as search and rescue and recovery efforts continue tonight. Well, along with Hurricane Milton, there are tornadoes also ripping through the state of Florida, or at the same time, I should have said, as some 120 warnings were issued and radar indicated 20 to 25 tornadoes touched down. One of those tornadoes in St. Lucie County said that's where Dylan Huberman is speaking with residents.
Utter devastation in St. Lucie County.
I know it's hard to put this into words, but what is the best way that you could describe what happened here?
Terrifying. I've never been more terrified in my life.
Jennifer Thomas and her family hid in their laundry room when the tornado went through.
All the kids were here, I was here, my husband was here, we had a dog, and the dogs were over here. And the cats hid behind the couch.
She lives in the Holiday Pines community, ripped to shreds across the street from Spanish Lakes, where at least 5 people were killed.
The people in Spanish Lakes, I couldn't even imagine. I feel we have not one scratch on us. So you don't get more lucky than that.
Her backyard was torn up, but everyone in her family was okay. The same goes for Zippy Sandler. Her house and yard damaged, glass all over the inside of her home, inches from destruction.
Could have been. Look down the street. One of our neighbors completely lost their home. You could hear the rumble, the roar as it came through, and the entire house shook. The whole house was shaking, and then I heard the glass go, and that was that.
South on Kings Highway, Al's family farms, a community staple for generations, ripped to pieces.
Virtually supernatural. This is probably the strongest tornado to hit the state of Florida. I'm no scientist, but I've never seen anything in all my years, and I've been living here almost all my life. That thing stood the test of 50 hurricanes, and look what happened to it.
But this reeling community is going to recover together.
I am so thankful that our community came together the way it did. Our neighbors are amazing. The people coming through, bringing supplies, bringing food, making sure everybody's okay has been awesome.
And tonight, nearly 48 hours after that storm made landfall, millions in Florida remain without power. This is a live look at the U.S. power outage map. You can see Florida lit up in red still tonight with more than 2 million customers in the dark. State and federal workers were deployed before the storm hit the region to help with restoration. And as communities in the South begin their cleanup and recovery efforts, or really continue them, Ohioans remain ready to jump into action to help. Our local American Red Cross, Dayton area churches, and Ohio Task Force 1 are just some of the many stepping up. Gwyneth Falloon spoke with Task Force 1 just this afternoon and brings us a look at what the team of almost 100 has been doing over the last few weeks.
Ohio Task Force 1 remains in Florida tonight. It's now been more than 2 weeks since the team's initial deployment ahead of Hurricane Helene, but their mission was extended due to the damage left behind by Milton. Now, these are some of the photos Ohio Task Force 1 shared on their Facebook. You can see the debris and destruction these communities are facing. So all 82 deployed members of the task force remain mission ready.
Everyone's got a great positive attitude, and we're happy to get the work in, happy to assist the people of Florida and North Carolina, and just be able to get some work in and get some stuff done.
Ohio Task Force 1 in high spirits despite being gone far longer than most expected.
We came down here for Helene initially, expected to spend most of our time in Florida. Obviously, the damage that occurred around Asheville and the areas adjacent to that was unexpected.
That was 17 days ago. Ryan McElroy and 81 other team members are now back in Florida to assist with the damage left behind by multiple tornadoes and Hurricane Milton.
Along the coast, you're seeing that storm surge damage where you've got structures that are inundated with water. We were over on the East Coast, so we were dealing with tornado damage, very similar to what happened in Memorial Day in Dayton a couple years ago. So much more severe structural damage of the buildings, but on a little bit more localized scale.
The storm brought destructive winds and heavy rain to the state and surrounding areas, something the team itself experienced.
They moved us over to a local high school to shelter overnight, just to stay out of the winds. We were south of the eye, so we actually didn't get a lot of rain initially. It was a lot of wind. There was some localized flooding from the earlier bands.
But they made it through both storms and are now focused on helping get the southern communities back on their feet.
It's just nice to be able to give back and help them out in the time of need, just like anyone else would want that coming back into Ohio if anything like this ever happened to us.
As for when Ohio Task Force 1 will return home to their family and loved ones, it's yet to be determined. The team tells me they are still getting mission packages and have plans to stay until everything is wrapped up, supporting the local community as much as possible. Back to you.
Dayton 24/7 now is partnering with the Salvation Army and our parent company, Sinclair Inc., to assist with humanitarian relief efforts across the disaster zones. Viewers like you have helped raise more than $309,000 in the Sinclair Cares Hurricane Relief Campaign. Now, Sinclair is donating $50,000, bringing the total to nearly $360,000 already. Head to sinclaircares.com or scan the QR code on your screen to make a donation. And of course, thank you. Well, this man here, Ezra Bansabeza, has now been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for rape. He was indicted last year for multiple counts, including rape of a minor. He was convicted earlier this year. Bansabeza was designated a tier 1, 2, and 3 sex offender. So in the event he is released, he will need to register his address every 90 days for the rest of his life. A live look now from our Eco Plumber Sky Cam. Let's send it over to meteorologist Marshall McPeak.
We have a beautiful Friday evening in store. The temperatures are going to remain mild through a lot of the evening. And even overnight, we're not going to get as cold as what we had last night. A lot of places woke up to frost this morning. That's not going to be the case. We're going to stay a little warmer. Clouds are going to dip in here from the north, and we will have some partly cloudy skies overnight tonight. In between, you'll get to see a bunch of stars. So by the time we get to the first part of Saturday morning, we are partly to mostly cloudy. A few areas dropping into the 40s. Troy and Springfield in the 40s, but Dayton still right around 50 degrees. The rest of your evening looks beautiful. Mainly clear sky to begin with. By the time we get to 11 o'clock, we're down to 60 degrees and many areas headed into the 40s.
The state of Ohio announcing a major upgrade to our bus routes across the entire state, including right here in the Miami Valley. Lydia Bice joins us now with the details.
Hi everyone, Lydia Bice here. So Governor DeWine and the Ohio Department of Transportation just announced $23.1 million in funding for Ohio urban transit grants. And lucky for us, some of our local areas are getting some of that funding. So here in Montgomery County, I'm going to switch over here for you. The Greater Dayton RTA is receiving over $2 million in funding, really to just boost operations here in the Dayton area. Obviously, the RTA has all kinds of different routes throughout the Miami Valley. Greene County is also receiving some of that funding, as well as, I'm going to go back over here so you can see the map, Clark County. So 3 counties here in our region in the Miami Valley are receiving some of this $23.1 million. And I want to go ahead and read you a quote from Governor DeWine when he explained how important this is. So he says, quote, "Public transportation is an important part of our communities. These funds help ensure public transit remains an option for the hundreds of thousands of Ohioans who rely on it daily." So exciting stuff for our local transit systems.
Well, Miamisburg Police Department now has a new police chief. Back in September, Michael Brem was officially appointed chief. This after Chief John Sedlak announced his retirement after 22 years as Miamisburg's police chief. Chief Brem has more than 30 years of experience in law enforcement, starting as a corrections officer back in 1993.
I know they're very community-based. I want to learn more about that, try to implement the community-based philosophy that they already have, and try to push that forward. So, and I'm really excited. I'm a community guy. I love the community feeling in the police department, so I'm hoping to bring that or more of that to the police department.
Chief Brem says he grew up in Miamisburg and is excited for the opportunity to finish his career here as chief. Well, a Dayton street has now been dedicated and named after a Dayton native who became a national human rights activist and journalist. Joe Madison graduated in 1967 from Roosevelt High School. He was known as the Black Eagle. In his career, he became the youngest NAACP president, staged a 74-day hunger strike, and raised more than $250,000 for Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. Today, Cowart Street in Dayton was designated Joe Madison Way. And a few months ago, we told you how the University of Dayton students lent a hand in building walls for a Habitat of Humanity home. Well, now the home is complete and we met the new owner. Alicia Jackson has been also working with Habitat for the last 2 years to get the home of her dreams.
I'm just so thankful of Habitat for Humanity accepting me into the program, giving me the experience to take the classes, build on other homes and meet other people, start a community. I'm just so thankful and blessed for that. My dream came true.
Alicia said one of the things on her bucket list was to have a home by the age of 40 for her and her girls. She turns 40 next year. She says it wouldn't be possible for this to happen without the help of the community. While the hurricanes have passed, a political storm is now brewing. A look at why some Republicans are bashing FEMA's response. And Matt Digby will have a preview of the Cincinnati Bengals trip to the Meadowlands this weekend, plus some games to keep an eye on for Week 8 of Football Friday. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
The Triple Option Podcast, presented by
This message.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
The Aurora Borealis is also known as the Northern Lights, but few of us would ever consider Texas or Florida northern, yet the lights were visible in San Antonio, El Paso, and even Pensacola, Florida, not to mention Washington, D.C., and on a flight to Las Vegas. And thanks to the same geomagnetic storm, the aurora could be visible again tonight, but this time just more likely in your more typical northern locations.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
Well, tonight the hurricanes have passed, but the political storms around them are raging. Here's national correspondent Kayla Gaskins with a look at how leaders are responding in the aftermath.
FEMA under intense scrutiny from some Republicans in the aftermath of Hurricanes Helene and Milton. Concerns over whether or not there's enough funding to help those in need. Biden has said Congress should come back to Washington to approve additional funds.
I think the Congress should be coming back and moving on the emergency needs immediately. It's going to take several $1 billion.
Earlier this week, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre had this answer when asked by reporters why Congress had to come back to Washington to approve more money for hurricane relief when they did not need to do so for Biden to authorize sending money to Lebanon.
Your whole premise of the question is misinformation, sir. What you don't, yes, it's misinformation.
Is there money to send to Lebanon right now?
I just mentioned to you that we provided more than $200 million to folks who are impacted in the area, and it's there.
That you don't like misinformation.
Trump has taken to the campaign trail saying more money is needed because FEMA spends millions on housing for illegal migrants.
They had no money. You know where they gave the money? To illegal immigrants coming in.
FEMA does have a program to help illegal migrants. It has its own budget separate from disaster relief. The agency says no funds have been transferred from one to the other.
We are headed into a very pleasant weekend for most of western Ohio. This is going to turn really nice. Not as cold as last night. We'll stay mainly clear to begin with. We'll be partly cloudy by morning. 51 degrees for an overnight low in the city. A lot of north central and northwestern Ohio is going to end up climbing into the 70s, but a little farther south, you're going to get into the 80s. So from Sydney on up into Bellefontaine, you'll get into the mid and upper 70s during the afternoon. Wapak may even hit 80 degrees. Same thing for Springboro and Wilmington. You're going to get close to 80 degrees. Clouds come through in the morning, and there may be a chance at showers mainly in northern Ohio on Saturday. I think we'll stay dry here. Once we get into Sunday, you'll notice that some of the clouds come back again, but mainly in the northern part of the viewing area. So Sydney up into Salina, you'll find a few extra clouds there, but temperatures will be very mild again. So enjoy a beautiful weekend with some clouds that come and go. Other parts of the state are going to have to deal with some rain. So we're going to enjoy what we have around here. First thing tomorrow morning, it may be a little cool, but not as cold as it was Friday morning. Temperatures will still be in the 50s at 7 a.m. A mix of sun and clouds through midday. By the time we get to Saturday afternoon, maybe you haven't put up the Halloween decorations. Might be a good day for it. Mix of sun and clouds in the afternoon. Temperatures climbing close to 80 degrees and a pleasant Saturday evening with temperatures getting down to around 69 degrees by 9 o'clock. And still very mild. So your high tomorrow, 80 degrees. Clouds thickening up as we go through the day, and late there is a chance at a shower mainly off to the north, but a lot of areas are still going to remain dry. And then once we get to Sunday, it's still pretty nice. There will be a chance at some showers in the morning. After that, it's windy, it's warm, the high near 79 degrees. I think you're going to notice the wind more than anything else because we could see some wind gusts up to about 30 miles per hour. Doing a little tailgating on Saturday. Should be fantastic for it. Highs are going to be in the upper 70s. Will be partly cloudy as the day goes on. And here's how your weekend breaks up. Temperatures Saturday morning in the 50s, near 80 degrees by 5 o'clock. Then on Sunday, there's that chance for showers late. Otherwise, it is still very mild. Next week, we're going to get chilly. Highs are only going to be in the 50s on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday with overnight lows in the 30s.
Good evening, I'm Matt Digby. This is the Bob's Discount Furniture Sports Desk. Only 3 weeks remain in the regular season for high school football. We'll have another edition of Football Friday sponsored by Donato's coming up on ABC 22 at 11. Our game of the week is at Roush Stadium. Springboro and Fairmont are two teams in that four-way tie atop the GWAC standings. Eaton and Brookville will meet in the pivotal matchup in the SWBL. Chaminade-Julienne hosting Carroll in the GCL. And a couple more games will be following. A CBC rivalry game between Bellefontaine and Urbana, and Coldwater is back home trying to stay perfect as they host New Bremen. This weekend is week 6 for the National Football League. Cincinnati Bengals have a Sunday night road trip to the Meadowlands where they'll face the New York Giants. Zach Taylor's team recording its first win of the season 2 weeks ago at Carolina. They were in line for another win against Baltimore before the Ravens rallied in the fourth quarter and overtime. The Giants, meanwhile, are 2-3. They did win at Cleveland a couple weeks ago. And speaking of the Browns, they're also on the road Sunday at Philadelphia. And the Cleveland Guardians season is not done yet. Facing elimination yesterday, the Guardians coming from behind to hold off the Detroit Tigers, forcing a deciding Game 5 at Progressive Field. Now, tomorrow's game was originally going to be a nighttime contest. However, because of the chance of bad weather in Cleveland, it's been moved to an afternoon game. First pitch scheduled for just after 1 o'clock. The winner will face the Yankees in the American League Championship Series. Again, Football Friday coming up tonight at 11. I'm Matt Digby.
You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
A shocking uptick in government
the Dayton 24/7 Now News app, brought to you by the Jeff Schmidt Auto Group.
Well, check it out. You could see the Aurora Borealis last night, and you all did not disappoint and sent in some amazing pictures. Look at this. This is from Jenny. Now, she shared this photo. This was taken around 10:15 last night. I am just loving the colors in the skies. I've seen a lot of them around the Miami Valley looking like this. And look at this. Elias shared this picture. This is Trigo, her dog, with the Aurora Borealis hanging out behind him. I believe it's a him. And just, I mean, it's beautiful. The colors in the night sky. And then Elizabeth. Oh, my goodness. I love that. I'm actually so jealous of this picture. How beautiful is that? Even the stars up in the sky still. Absolutely gorgeous. We would love to see